You need to see! Few more chapters, just a few more chapters. We only read 2. We gotta read more than that. Come on, man. Okay. And go. Oh boy! Rose, we're back with Rose. Oh gosh. When I was a child, I wrote a novel. Rose is speaking with her eyes closed. She is weary, but standing for now, near one of Dirk's work tables. She has both hands resting on the chassis of his recent project, Sawtooth 3.1. The energy humming inside its mechanical heart warms her palms. Dirk snorts, but in a good-natured sort of way. That's the closest he usually gets to laughing. Another one of those Lalonde childhood wizard fics, I presume? He leans his elbow on the table and stares at her over the rims of his shades. The weight of Dirk's scrutiny is potent. She looks away. Complacency of the learned. Ah, the wizard fic, then. Yes, of course. It is nothing like the polished masterpiece penned by the middle-aged version of myself from your world. Nor did the saga span as many volumes. 13-year-old Rose only managed to draft the one, shames me to say. How pathetic. I know. Rose steps back, trailing her fingers over the rivets of the line Sawtooth 3.1's chest. Eyes closed again, she passes the front of the window. With the sunset behind her, she's a shadow ringed in yellow light that turns white at the tips of her hair. Though I must say, in defense of young Rose's literary integrity, having carefully studied all volumes of the Elder's work and then revisiting my youthful preteen scribbles of passion, I observed more power and emotion in the single ragged notebook than the full span of the best-selling series. It's more raw. It betrays considerably more sincerity than my younger self was surely ever aware of stitching into the prose. It meant something. She turns to look at him. For all its plainly evident amateurism as the literary product of a child, I've come to believe it's much a stronger work standing alone as a single volume, its meaning and symbolism potently compressed, and its message shining through more nakedly, undisguised by the cleverness of a more seasoned writer. But the basics are the same as the series you've read. The plot concerns the machinations of 12 wizard children. They revolt against the complacency of the wise, kind wizards and go on to become responsible for great evils. It isn't their intent to commit atrocities or within their nature to do so originally. They become corrupt by an overabundance of knowledge, the kind never meant for mortal mind to grasp. Yeah, that sounds pretty close to my recollection of it. It certainly wasn't the most messed up thing I've ever written, but it was the most psychologically potent, the most personally, easily, but the personal aspects to it were all telegraphed through allegory and esoteric symbolism. I wrote in it that would be best described as a fevered haze, as if I were pulling inspiration from beyond myself, channeling the story, rather than writing it. You can almost call it the process. She runs a hand through her hair, fanning it into a halo that is suspended in the air for a moment, trailing spiderwebs of gold that dissolve into dust. She's smirking now, just a little. Enlightened. That sucked. Yes. It also sounds like it's the opposite of what's going on. Sounds more like you were trapped in a sort of dire creative fugue state, causing you to chart your own mental profile using metaphor revolving around murderous, omniscient children. I can say omniscient correct this time. Goodness. Well, consider the playful pun rescinded. Apologies for diminishing your presence with my subtomal health and the toll it has taken on my wordplay. Thanks. It's been very difficult for me. You've been a real trooper. Anyway, my point is that I've long suspected my story was a pre-manifestation of my Seer of Light powers. I was seeing beyond my universe into another. My original thesis was that the children represented the 12 trolls who created our universe, but over the years, I've come to see how malleable any apparent fact of numerological significance can be. Adaptable, actually. Adaptable to shifting circumstance, changes in settings, stakes, and allied ensembles. 12. That's how many players went through the door at the end of our game. Exactly. My friends and yours, as well as Kanaya, Karkat, Terezi, and Calliope. Okay, well then, I guess no one put comments on my Calliope video about complacency of the learned. I'm not willing to hear this. Dirk settles in against the wall beside Rose, shoulder to shoulder. She seems to take some measure of comfort in this physical proximity. When she finds herself leaning against him, probably without thinking about it, Dirk imagines, because neither of them really do that, he doesn't pull away. If it's her, it's all right. He won't begrudge her a small weakness now. He is your father! Anyway, you describe this as a fact of numerological significance, which makes it seem you suspect these correlations are something less than utterly providential, as if there's a part of you holding on to the belief that certain figures are coincidental, that their significance and repetition smacks of bull. Do they not smack of bull? They smack a bunch of things, and a bunch of other things that also happen to smack of bull. But the network of relations isn't perfectly traceable, nor can they all be mapped on a one-to-one basis. It's unclear exactly which things are smacking, just as it's unclear that when it comes to bull, whether or not smacking accurately describes what's being done, per se. Is this hussy just saying, hey, y'all who read too much into this? Well. Rose looks up to Dirk with a ghost of a smile she inherited from him. On her face, its blankness is enigmatic as the Mona Lisa's. Could it be it's you who is smacking of bull, dear father? Nah, I smack of many admirable qualities, as well as keen insights. She doesn't seem to have another riposte to return. Is it riposte? Yeah. But her gaze lingers. She stares into his shades as if convinced she could see past them. Dirk allows their eyes to meet. I'm just saying it's all evidence of grand design. An immortal metatextual apparatus beyond our ken that we can only catch glimpses of when we're proverbially out of crapping our brains out through our nose, which both you and I know. Are they talking about hussy? which only you and I know, apparently, which is precisely my question. Her gaze drifts towards the ceiling. In my story, all 12 of the disciples fell victim to the vagaries of power. They were filled with the light of knowledge, and one by one they succumbed to it, turning insane or evil. Or, most often, both. The power, it's like, the knowledge of good and evil. I can't. Sorry. If this is the effect unchecked powers have on players living in a post-canon victory state, then why isn't it affecting any of our other friends? Well, I've got a few theories. Man, I love Dirk so much. She shoots him a look. It's the kind of look Kanaya gives her sometimes. Only a few? I mean, some of us have stopped using our powers completely. Not a whole lot of need for emergency resurrections or complex timeline manipulation on a planet that's never had a conflict more serious than a sports ball riot or a rumpled hatch shortage. I like that there's a sports ball. But even aside from how often they're used, some powers don't lend themselves to infinite expansion of one's mind the way ours do. I see. So what you're saying is it's more a matter of one's aspect than it is whether one's powers are practiced further or allowed to atrophy. Yep. In that case... Rose sways suddenly. In that case, perhaps Teresi had the right idea. Getting away from this place, I mean. Maybe I was a fool for imagining I could settle down here. She jerks away from the wall in a tortured ragdoll motion, one hand snapping out vainly for something to brace herself against. She staggers forward a bit. Dirk doesn't reach a hand out to steady her. Anyone else might have the empathetic reflex to do so. Maybe it says something about him that he lacks this reflex. And maybe it says something about Rose that she prefers this way. Try as she might to convince herself otherwise, through marriage vows and the occasional banter about adoption with her wife. She is a solitary creature. Ugh. All the Rose fans are just crying. Oh gosh. She gasps, sucks breath down her throat, and squeezes her eyes shut so hard that a tear rolls out. She slides back down the wall, sitting on the floor to save her energy. She's mostly composed when she raises her head. There's a bitter laughter at the edge of her words. How are you handling this so well? I assumed it was just that feigned Strider stoicism, but you seem to be taking this in stride. I won't lie, it's definitely making me feel pretty crazy. Dirk stands over her, adjusts his hair, crosses his arms. He makes no motion to bother joining her on the floor. He looks very together. He says the word crazy with the same intonation, which he might say, good morning. It's hard to believe he means anything at all. But I've got more practice at this than you do. I spent most of my life before the game multitasking my entire subconscious. I've had several times my age on paper. Let's see. I've had several times my age on paper to contemplate these mysteries. Years of prying open can after can of worms filled with answers I don't like. Cut yourself on the edge more than once, and you stop getting surprised by all the blood. I see. Rose wraps her hands around her upper arms, like there's a winter chill rattling through the workshop. She shivers. It's not the headaches that concern me most. In fact, I don't think it's the expansion of my powers that is causing the headaches, but rather my own resistance to it. Sometimes I get this feeling that I could, if I really wanted to, just let go. It'd be easy as opening my eyes. It's like that feeling you get when you're far enough out of a dream to be conscious of it, but not yet awake. I'm caught in the liminal space between reality and reverie, where people once believed demons dwell. But the only reason the demon is still sitting on my chest is because I refuse to banish it. All it would take is looking directly at it. I'm getting art vibes. Hold on, I know this painting. Which one is it? Nightmare? Is it Nightmare? Yeah, I think it's Nightmare. Anyway, art history, go! Rose, let's see. I'm forcing myself to stumble through my life as a sleepwalker. All this pain and sorrow could go away if I would just allow myself to wake up. Then why don't you? 'Cause I'm not sure that person opening her eyes will be me. Her voice is lost at sea, swallowed by the swell of darkness lurking in her imagination. This time Dirk does reach out to steady her. He kneels in front of her, curls a knuckle under her chin, lifts her face up to his level. Then, in a deliberate motion, he pulls off his shades. I understand completely. Rose's eyelids flutter heavily. She meets the intensity of his naked gaze aloofly, like she's not aware this is the first time he's ever let her see it. I know, I sound pretty nonchalant most of the time, but I actually am scared out of my mind of myself. I've always had this uncanny ability to chart a course from A to Z and not give a crap about any of the letters in between. I'm not sure anyone should be allowed to have that much foresight, especially a guy like me. What upsets me most, I think, is the distance this is all putting between me and everyone I know. The further above the board you fly, the harder it gets to care about the pieces. I hear you, and personally speaking, things usually work out for the best when all those pieces do exactly what I say. So I'm also probably not the kind of guy who should get to be right all the time. Rose laughs softly. She's not scared of this abyss. She's staring into it all. She doesn't even think to look away. There's really not an inch of humility in you, is there? I've just spent a lot of time in my own head. Maybe absolute self-absorption is the inevitable outcome. When the self is all you've ever known. When you're drowning in it. I know there's plenty of things that suck about me. No point feigning humility about the things that don't. And yes, I may be a terrible human being. But, as a mechanic, I'm off the charts. Rose's eyes have grown distant, almost mirror-like. Dirk can see himself reflected in her vacant stare. All the pieces in their place, the mechanisms all running smoothly. She says this in a hollow tone, the disarming voice a puppeteer ventriloquizes for a marionette. Her head falls towards her shoulders slowly. Dirk catches her cheek as she slides into sleep. It's difficult for the untrained ear to spot the exact moment in their conversation when the words she was saying stopped being hers and started being his. Or maybe they were her words. Does it really matter? In many respects, they're basically the same person, aren't they? Kindred spirits in blood and perspective, the puppet masters of the respective games they like to believe they're playing. But you already knew that, right? Dirk, stop being meta. Stop it right now, young man. I'm still older than you, even in this universe of yours. You stop it. Oh gosh, Dirk is writing all of this. Oh. Yes! Okay. 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 None of my friends have noticed it yet, but you have. You have the ability to read between the lines, to understand that our lives are blighted by this undercurrent of subtext, of narrative significance. Anyone paying attention could have guessed by now who's really telling this story. You're not so innocent either. I've caught you leering at some pretty personal moments. Are you having fun being a voyeur? Just violating the heck out of everyone's privacy? Dirk, stop it! Are these teenage romantic entanglements panning out the way you wanted? They never do. Maybe it helps, being able to see everyone's thoughts described in plain sight, broadcasting the eternal conflicts and compromises and doubts. Does it make it easier for you to accept the emotional faltering and the missteps? The basic inability to reach out and seize the opportunity for happiness repeatedly dangled in their faces? Knowing their thoughts are transcribed by a third party, does it fill you with a sense of unease, of sickness, sensing that observations made of their mental interiors may be tainted? Who the hell do I think I am? I can hear you wondering. You know who I am, of course. The better question is, who do you think you are? What exactly is so special about you? Nothing, of course. I'm specific. I have a name, an agenda, a vision. I'm a monolith of concentrated narrative authority, relaying events to you and swaying them as I see fit. Dirk, calm the heck down. Whereas you are pointedly non-specific, you are the generalized, impotent witness to all of this. You're essentially as beholden to me as those whose lives I describe. I even have the ability to decide what you actually means. I can take away the you-ness away from you and put it inside another passive mark, such as John Egbert. You didn't even notice when I did, and you had no objections then. Why would you object now? So what makes John so special? The answer is nothing, something I'm sure you suspected all along, but would rather not face. Which is probably nothing. He isn't special. He's quite ordinary, I assure you. Boring even, and getting less interesting by the minute as he's forced to confront his absolute lack of heroic purpose, except as a pawn, to be manipulated by a fatalistic reality. But I also like to make it clear, he's not even that remarkable in his unremarkableness. He's simply convenient for it. Anyone can be endowed with this you-ness, if I think it achieves a certain goal. Even if the objective is merely to demonstrate the gambit's potential, to reveal the effortlessness behind it, to make a show of who matters and who doesn't, and even if they do matter, for how long and for what purpose, as dictated slowly by the allocation of this faculty. Ugh. Your unit. Let's see. Eunice can be stripped from the lowly Egbert just as easily as it was given and then bestowed upon the mighty Circuit. But even then, only long enough to dismiss the vainglorious spotlight hog from the narrative forever. Good riddance. Whew. But I haven't even revealed myself to you just to boast about the abilities arising from the gradual obliteration of the constraints of my consciousness. I've only taken a moment to answer a few questions, not ones I heard you ask, because yet again, you're non-specific and therefore do not matter, but ones I imagined you asking. And by imagining these questions, they become less fake, and as such remain similarly non-fake answers. No, in truth, the time has come to make my presence known. In order to start bringing my plans to fruition, it's time to get down to business. John needs to wake up. This sounds so purple prose that I'm surprised Rose is not writing this herself. Wait, how did you even know he's entering the race? We just decided this. A competent political operative has his ways. Okay, he's thinking about Dirk. Besides, everyone loves a good villain. I had to stop and just be thoughtful for a second. I'm just gonna take a sip of water. Let's see if we can go for another 20 minutes without my head splitting open. That sounds like a good idea. Okay. You wake up. What? You open your eyes. Actually, you're not sure they're open. Everything is intolerably bright, like it was inside the juju, but worse. Did you go blind? Are you dead? Is it your Is your ghost dead? You spent a couple seconds filing through miserable worst-case scenarios, but then you see it, your own blood floating around you in a nimbus of shiny, taut bubbles. You reach out to touch one and it bursts around your finger. You finally process the true magnitude of what has happened. The furthest ring has been completely destroyed, and you're all alone. Everything hits you all at once. The light, your memories of the battle, the untethered sensation of weightlessness. It's a hammer stroke that hits you in the center of the head. It splits like rivers through your gray matter. The pain and disorientation goes all the way down your throat. You double over and, well, you're vomiting up everything in your stomach. Rest assured, it's pretty gross, and I don't think anyone needs an explicit account of the way you're disgorging your entire gut in zero gravity, or the way it's coating your entire torso in puke. From your long blue hood to your silly yellow slip-ons. You seriously need to get it together. You look like absolute crap right now, my man. In fact, you really should strongly consider issuing an apology for the mess you're making.
I'm sorry?
Who are you talking to, dude? Nobody around for miles. Everyone's dead. Well, almost everyone. But certainly the vast majority of what qualifies as everyone in your current frame of reference. Every single person and every single thing, nearly literally, has been sucked into that monstrous black hole up there, including every single fragment of black empty space that used to provide the canvas for this bleak continuum. And most of your friends, Dave, Rose, Dave, Absurd Cat, Dave, and hundreds of ghosts, who all valiantly contributed to a victory which you're now only beginning to question the functional necessity of.
Functional necessity? That doesn't sound like something I would think.
Because it's not. What the hell? You finally noticed. No, not me. You go back to ignoring the fact that I'm the voice in your head. You notice how it hurts when you breathe. Suddenly you remember Lord English's tooth is still embedded in your chest. You panic, wrap your hands around your base, give it a little tug. It's excruciating. The tooth makes an awful grating sound as it grinds along one of your ribs. You gasp, lose your grip, biting the inside of your mouth so hard that you taste blood. Can't blame you for trying, but I wouldn't do that if I were you. Without someone to administer proper medical care, you'll bleed to death pretty much instantly. On the other hand, the tooth is poisoned, so you're pretty much screwed either way, and that's really all there is to say on the matter. You sigh in painful resignation and wonder what to do next. English is dead, so you suppose you can go home, right? It's tempting. You consider zapping back to Earthsea, being done with this nightmare for good, and never breathing a word of it to anyone ever? But you can't yet, can you? Why not, you wonder? What's the harm? You're right. It would probably be a harmless decision in the grand scheme of things. Certainly the easiest thing to do, but what about your friends? You saw Rose and Dave die with your own eyes. You saw countless ghosts getting swallowed whole by a voracious singularity. How about Jade, though? She could still be out there somewhere, uninjured, alone, and scared. And it's your fault, isn't it?
It's all my fault.
You decide no matter how terrible you feel, you should look around first before you leave. You were the one who dragged her here. You owe her at least that much. Plus, there's someone else on your mind, isn't there? You proceed to wander for a long time. Time passes differently here than it does anywhere else. Here, I'll simulate it for you. I just left to go take a bathroom break. Then I microwaved myself a Hot Pocket. And then I came back. In the time it took me to do that, you just spent hours drifting around the entire circumference of the black hole, thinking sad sack thoughts about the years of inaction that led you to this point, intermittently humming the Ghostbusters theme to yourself. You get so worked up about one of your Ghostbuster freestyles that you almost miss it. There, 11 o'clock. Did you see it? That's a tiny dot floating over there. You scramble to... No. Huh? You scramble to catch it before it drifts any closer to the event horizon. Got it. What the hell? It feels familiar, and you want to make sure you're not imagining it. A wallet. Your dad's wallet. You chew a lip and press your fingers into the soft leather. Space is an infinitely large expanse, and the wallet is a tiny, insignificant object. Surely there have been crazier coincidences in the course of this wacky adventure you're having for the past 10 years, but this one feels precisely aimed at your heart. You take a deep breath, unfold the wallet, and open it. Dirk, why you be so cruel? Anyway, back to the B-plot. Right now, Jade should be wrapping up her political presentation to Roxy and Calliope, using a lot more lot more graphs and far fewer words than Dave did when roping her into the election. Her approach is definitely more heady. It's also more accessible. Jade's got this disarming combo of head in the clouds flightiness and the kind of legit down-to-earth cred that can only be earned by having done something like cutting open your own grandfather and stuffing him full of polyethylene foam. So you see, Jane's neoliberal austerity measures... Roxy groans upon hearing the phrase neoliberal austerity measures for no less than the third of this presentation. As I outlined here in graph B2, and here in figure A6, and here in this very spooky drawing I dictated to Callie, great drawing by the way, woohoo, will no doubt lead a whole bunch of ugly societal backlashes, not just in economic terms, but on a number of more serious verticals that we've been lucky enough to avoid on New Earth so far. You don't say. I do say. The thing is that Jane is an establishment leader. She's looking at doing things the way our old universe did them. She's pretty convinced that she's going to able to replicate the capitalist hierarchies that Earth had built in a more responsible way. But none of that stuff actually worked. And you think Karkat can do better? I think it's worth to give him a chance. He's a leader of the people, and he's experienced firsthand what happens when the establishment goes too far, which I imagine you can sympathize with. Jade takes a deep breath, panting a little. Her graphs are floating around the living room in disarray. She spins them around her, gliding her hands through the air like a conductor, before folding the pages together and shrinking them to pocket size. And that's my pitch. Roxy and Calliope exchange a look. I'm just going to get to some tea and some snacks. Would you like some, Jade? It's almost Cockney there. Man, my throat hurts. Dirk's voice is annoying. Would you like some, Jade? Oh yeah, sure. Any preference? A pumpkin matcha if you have it. Of course, I'll be right back. Calliope excuses herself from the conversation and flees to the kitchen, seemingly making no attempt to disguise the fact that she is in fact fleeing. Jade deflates as she watches her go, sensing that her presentation wasn't the slam dunk she was hoping for. So, what do you think? Well, I gotta say, this has been a hella convincing argument, all in all, but I'd okay if I can help you out. What? Why not? Roxy presses her lips together, then bounces her palms on her knees. Her gaze slides east, right out the window. She and Calliope live in a belfry above New Prospect. On the end of their living room is an oriel window that looks out over a public park. The other disappears into an arcading hallway, lit at the far end by a giant stained glass window that Calliope made herself. The corbels supporting it have windy, abstract shapes carved into them. This room reminds Jade of her childhood home, except that it's bright and warm and not inhabited in all corners by corpses and ghosts. That's why she can't settle down. That's why Jade Harley, flitting from couch to couch, relationship to relationship, she can't stop thinking to herself that home comes awfully close to rhyming with alone. Home is John, who doesn't call anymore. Home is when Rose and Kanaya welcome her in from the cold night and help her set lyrics to her sick bass lines. Home is here, snorting at Roxy's irrelevant method of storytelling and admiring Callie's art. Home is Dave and Karkat, especially Dave and Karkat. Jade knows the selection is important for a number of reasons, but let's not mistake her enthusiasm for some kind of humanistic altruism. Girl's got personal reasons for doing all of this. Jade drifts down to sit cross-legged on the couch beside Roxy. She stares at her with doggish expression, eyes wide, head lolling to the side, until she gets an answer. I just don't really care about politics that much, I guess. Roxy turns to face Jade again, smiling apologetically. Also, this election is all kinds of personal. I mean, if I came into your house and asked you to make some grand political whatever against your BFF, would you be all, oh yeah, totes, sign me the F up. I'm alls about the sowing of discord among my childhood friends. Sigh, let me guess. Dirk got you first. Not even. I've got no problem telling Dirk where to stick it. LMAO. But Dirk's not the one running. You think he's not the one pulling the strings behind the scenes? Sure, but give Janie a little credit. She's got more moxie and ambition in her pinky than the rest of us got all together. She's been planning this for years, but she's, you know, ruthless. Roxy frowns. Jade is being pretty unfair. Fragile. She's got to be Miss Perfect all the time for billboards and press meetings. Always wearing those power suits, trying to look like she's one big bad girl. You mean like the Condess? Wow, ouch. I'm not just imagining it though, right? You see it too. Not to dredge up something horrible from your history, but her whole image is just kinda... woof. Is that what you guys think? You and Dave and Carcat? Well, yeah. Ironically, the one that's trying to, like, regulate troll population is also acting a lot like a troll. This is great. Okay. Water. Roxy leans forward and stares Jade down, like she's searching for something behind Jade's eyes. Jade unwittingly responds in kind, looking for meaning behind Roxy's gaze, but she comes up empty, and to be honest, so do I. In full spirit of disclosure, Roxy's the only one left I haven't been able to crack. Her mind remains a total enigma to me, just like it always has. If I had to guess, it's her void powers that make her invisible. Even to the increasingly omniscient parties, such as myself. For all intents and purposes, it's like her thoughts don't exist. She's the same person as far as I can tell. She still wears her heart on her sleeve, but the bottom line remains, Roxy Lalonde is still inscrutable. Well, Jane's not perfect. Roxy shrugs and runs a hand through her hair, which has been recently cut shorter than usual. IDK if she'll be a good president, but she's not Betty Crocker, and I love her, and I don't want to hurt her feelings, and that's pretty much all there is to say on the matter. Calliope returns from the kitchen with 3 cups, a handmade teapot, and some candied cakes. Jade finally relents. Fine, I understand. Callie, what about you? Calliope sets down the snacks and brushes Jade's skirt aside so she can sit down. She puts a claw to her mouth and makes a facial expression more complicated than you'd think a skull would be capable of. Oh, I'd rather stay uninvolved, thank you. I feel like interfering in both politics and personal argument between my friends would be impolite as well as kind of stressful, to be honest. Yeah, sorry, Callie. I probably shouldn't have put all that on you. Less apologizing, more snacking. Calliope claps her hands together. It's a bright noise. Her tone of voice is bright, too. All these years, and she still can't believe that she has so many friends. She smiles at Jade, and Jade smiles back. The tea tastes great. The cakes are even better. Callie's an artist in everything she does. 'Cause she's a muse. Anyway. Wow, Callie, you're such an amazing hostess. Roxy, you're lucky to have her. Roxy giggles awkwardly. She gives Jade a gentle jostle, an elbow to the ribs, and lowers her voice. Psst, not her. Them. Oh. Calliope's going as them right now. Okay. Well, I guess it makes sense. Jade tenses up and pales, turns wide-eyed to look at Calliope, who's still smiling politely. She realizes a bit too late the profoundly insensitive nature of her social misstep. Oh! She grabs one of Calliope's hands. Oh, wow! I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be culturally insensitive. I've just been stupidly calling you a girl for all these years like a big fat dummy. Oh no, I'm such a jerk. You are absolutely not a jerk. I didn't mean being called a girl. I still don't really mind. It's just not exactly accurate. But I did take some comfort in being a girl for a very long time. This is something we've only recently decided. Yeah. Roxy pauses, even though the lit of her voice makes the sentence sound unfinished. She stutters for the next part out. Me too, actually. You? Oh yeah, we're both they household now. Package deal thing. Things are non-binary as heck around here. Wait, what? Dirk just pauses like, excuse me? Really? Yep. Well, I mean, that's probably a dumb and a bad way to say it. I don't tell anyone I said it. That's just the way. But yeah, that's about what's going on. Roxy, seriously? Like I said, inscrutable. I never would have guessed. Not that I've spent much time contemplating issues related to gender. I'm pretty secure in my expression of masculinity, and you know what? Screw this. I don't know anyone an explanation of any sort on this topic. I'm confident in who I am, what I am, my gender, as well as my understanding of the concept. You want my honest opinion? It's fantastic. Good for them. Both of them. I mean, but also both of them in a singular fashion, since each one of them can now individually be referred to by the conventional plural noun them. I'm ecstatic for this personal development they've embraced, for the people they are, the lack of gender they identify with, or the pronouns they prefer. I've got no problem with it whatsoever, and frankly, it's insulting anyone would have imagined otherwise. Yeah, I'm gonna allow it. Carry on. Oh wow, Fridge Stuck is gonna get more complicated and more annoying as it goes. I should just put like a thing at the start of it along with the spoilers that also says before the epilogue. Just before. Wow, that actually felt good to say aloud. Man, hell of the way to come out. It's okay, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I know, but I am curious if you need to talk about it, I mean. Maybe. Kelly and I have been talking a lot about it, unpacking all kinds of baggage with their alien stuff and my human stuff, and so I got to thinking, what even is gender, am I right? Lol. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Jade looks at her hands, or where her hands are folded in her lap, bites her lip. She has her own concerns about this, her own thoughts. Reasonable thoughts, I'd say. But I'll refrain from any further comment. I'm staying away from this subject from now on. So you're, not doing gender anymore? Yeah, I guess not, LMAO. I mean, that was all stuff from our old universe. Why even bring it here, right? Right. Calliope takes a tea cake between two claws and eats it delicately, hyper-aware of a horrible gnashing and snapping of her powerful jaws capable of. My ideas about crap between two of their claws. They take a tea cake from the other of their claws and eats it delicately. Sorry, my bad. Were entirely influenced by my time watching Earth. I suppose I only thought of myself as a girl because my brother took masculinity quite seriously. Which, I mean, he became very enthusiastic about it, all the things it supposedly meant to be a boy. Cherub existence is dichotomous, but not the same way human biology is. I suppose our view of human culture indirectly influenced Alternia's development, which in turn affected yours, which is something I've had quite a lot of time to think about since we came here. It's also very circuitous and arbitrary. Yeah, exactly, like when you think about it. So much of what Earthsea thinks about boys and girls should do comes straight from the imagination of a bunch of dumb teens, which is totally screwed. Sure. Jade nods quite thoughtfully. No, Jade nods quite thoughtfully. She'd be a doggy's uncle if she wasn't gonna come across woke as hell about all this. Truthfully though, it was making sense to her. Eye-opening, really. Why hadn't anyone told her about this was even an option when she was younger? She probably would have loved being a they when she was a teen. I mean, what am I gonna do? Get married and pop out 100 babies? No? Exactly. I mean, once upon a time, I guess I thought about that, but I don't really think it's what I really wanted. I just like the idea of me and Dirk making some smart, awesome kids together. Because I like the idea of Dirk. I also literally, no one else on my entire planet was alive at the time. But we had some babies without even being consulted about it anyway, so whatever. Your kids are pretty cool. I know, right? Personally, I'm a big fan. And like that, Jade's smiling again. Storm clouds pass so quickly in her world, you almost wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong at all. Roxy and Calliope certainly didn't notice, but there is something, and this time they'll notice. Jade drops her tea. Cup hits the floor and shatters. Jade? She takes a sharp breath. She's not feeling well suddenly. She's dizzy, feverish, seeing things beyond her field of vision. A blinding flash of light. A black perfect circle burning a hole in her eyes. She tries to stand, but her knees wobble and knock together. Roxy shoots out of her seat and catches her before she hits the floor. Oh, crap. Is she okay? I don't know. Get a cloth from the kitchen and some water. Okay, I'll be right back. Roxy eases Jade into the couch and checks her pulse. She doesn't look bad at all. Jade wears unconsciousness well, having spent the better part of her life napping. Roxy slaps her cheek slightly and says her name, begs her to wake up, but she can't hear her. Jade is somewhere else right now. I'm just going to go and have a little time to myself. I've got to edit things anyway. Oh, what even is this? See you guys in the next one. Bye.
Hey there. Consider becoming a patron, just like the phenomenal Gerald Thomas and Bleed Red.